where I've been every time y'all ask me this question. Release the damn files. What else?
But are you concerned the president may have stopped the release of files because he could have been embarrassed?
Well, I heard the president say as recently as this week that he thought the DOJ should release whatever files they have. I agree with the president.
Obviously, the president was informed that his name appeared multiple times and then denied it. But the fact that he was informed and the decision was made to refuse to release the files smacks of a cover-up.
Do you think
what we're seeing is a cover-up ongoing in real time? The American people deserve better.
What I'm saying is, like, I'm much more concerned about more substantial things like cuts in Medicaid, and now coming up in September, shutting the government down. I mean, there's things much more, I think, more impactful at this point for me.
By the time I was 16, I brought him up to 75 girls, all the ages of, 14, 15, 16, people going from 8th grade to 9th grade at just school parties is where I recruit him from.
All Jeffrey cared about was go find me more girls. His appetite was insatiable. He couldn't stop. He wanted new, fresh, young faces every single day.
The sheer volume of girls, the frequency, sometimes several or many in the same day, the age of the girls. In some cases, there were victims that didn't know each other, had never met each other, but they had basically the same story.
I remember there was a staircase, and it was like kind of like a spiral almost.
And she brings us up the stairs, and it was like spiral stairs.
He walked into his bedroom, around his bed, to almost like a very little hall, and then it was another door. And that's where everything would happen, was in his bathroom. He would have a dresser, and it was filled with, like, the first drawer was lotion, and then like the third drawer down was like sex.
Before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and to academics and to people that royalty and people that you would never think, like, how did you get into that position of power in the first place if you're this disgusting, evil, decrepit person on the inside?
The CBS News investigation raising some new questions about this video. You will recall Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell in 2019, and it was ruled a suicide. Recently, the Justice Department released security video from the jail. One official called it raw footage, but we looked into it.
This was the nearly 11-hour video agents reviewed when they investigated the death of convicted child predator Jeffrey Epstein. Government officials say it's proof that no one entered his cell tier. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area, and that camera captured part of the common area, including the officer's station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. CBS News has reviewed the tape, and this is what it shows. The primary entrance is here. The pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera, leaving ample room for someone to enter unseen. This is the last time Epstein is believed to have been seen on camera, but we don't see him walking up the stairs to his cell. Bongino also said none of this video was doctored. It was the original, raw footage from the camera. But a review by multiple video forensic experts found several indications this may not be raw footage. For example, at 11:21 p.m., a cursor appears briefly, indicating the video may have actually been a recording of a computer screen. Experts told CBS News the video's metadata, which tracks how a file is created and changed, shows it's made from two clips edited together. Then, at 11:58 p.m., the video suddenly jumps to midnight, and the aspect ratio shifts. Here's U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
There was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
But a government source familiar with the probe told CBS News the FBI and other agencies are in possession of a copy of the video that records with no interruption.
These inconsistencies, while not contradicting the conclusion Epstein died by suicide, do introduce questions that the government so far has declined to answer. The Department of Justice, Adriana, has not responded to our request for comment.
The CBS News investigation.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines. How did they get up there?
Hold on a second. Sorry about that. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
I would unmute, but my child is whining in the background.
I got you. I got you covered. Peace and blessings to everybody. I hope everybody is well. Thank you for tapping in with us this evening. You already see what we about to get into here. I had to start this stream off the right way. Things have been
I appreciate the diversity of videos and all the topics it opens up.
Yeah, I had no idea that so much was really going on until I started digging, and yeah, man, that brother had some demons in his closet, and your boy got some demons in his closet too. But we already knew that. We already had an idea of what we were dealing with the minute he became president the first time. Even before then, so much to unpack. Shout outs to my writers, poets, content creators. Happy birthday to the brother Rob. Blessings to you, brother. Hope you get a chance to enjoy yourself. I am horrible at birthdays, but just to give you a shout out, you know what I'm saying? If y'all don't know who he is, he follows, he's on the panel, he has a YouTube channel, he's pretty much on every single platform that you can think of. Happy birthday to Mr. Chicken himself.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. You know what's weird? Someone has shared this video with me, not this one that I have up on the screen waiting, but they shared one that was about 24 minutes long. It was a guy, I guess, worked pretty close to Epstein, and he decided that he was going to share his experiences. And I didn't know what type of rabbit hole I was going to go down until I started scrolling TikTok. You know how that goes. So what was funny about this is that you had already sent me like a list of things that you wanted to cover, and that was on the top of your list. Well, that was before I even had said anything about doing it. So it's like, all right, yeah, this worked out perfect.
And it's so relevant and all-consuming of the media right now. Like, this is such a huge issue because this is like, I don't know, if you find out that he's connected to something like that, I find it hard to believe. Like, if you're hardcore enough to support him after something like that, there's something seriously wrong with you. I gotta say, to support somebody that actively predates on literal children, just I the people that still defend him with this possibility just blow my mind.
Yeah, I'm already done with them Trump supporters now anyway, just off of.
I was done with them when he won.
Yeah. Based off of everything that's already out here, and y'all still rocking with them. That just tell me what side you stand on, and I can't do it. I can't. So this is one of them situations where now I'm really going to be looking at the American citizens, just the country in general, and I'm going to really be questioning whose side you're really on. Who do you really stand for?
Especially when most of these people that are for Trump, the majority of those people, their reason is immigration. The majority of those people just want people of color out of this country, particularly Hispanics. And the fact that they still hold on to their convictions, even when a bunch of other things come out about him, they still hold on to that whole immigration thing. And I don't know, it just boggles my mind that people can watch these horrific things happening to people, American people, even people that are enlisted in our military, and you traumatize them, you send them to other countries, you threaten to never bring them back, you separate their families, you separate them from medications they need, you separate mothers from literal newborn children, and they can still be like, yeah, that's my president, that's my guy, I support him no matter what. Like, I'm now beginning to understand at a deeper level what happened in the 30s.
The veil is being removed from the faces of the people. Well, the ones that refuse to be stuck.
Did I send you it's another topic I really want to do. They have a white only city that they've started in Alabama, I think.
Great minds think alike.
Arkansas.
I'm gonna tell you something. I already had that topic waiting.
Damn.
I did, but like it's like, all right, well, because all right, it was either I was going to do a reaction to it or I was going to bring it to a panel. You brought it up here, so it's like, all right, we gotta put it on blast. It's got to be a panel.
I saw the documentary yesterday, and I'm just like, the stuff that they say is so like, what? Well, we're not racist. We just want people of the same community and mental whatever, like jargon, to be here. I'm like, but you're literally telling them that they can't be there because they're a different color. That's racism. Like, no matter what you tell yourself, that is racism. If you are telling someone, excluding them because they are a race, it doesn't matter what else you throw in there. It's because of their race. You don't care about their religion. You don't care about whether they're married or whatever. I mean, I don't know if they liked LGBT there, but they were all white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, family, patriot, that we're going to have a farm and kill pigs and that type of white, wholesome, whole grain bread type people.
Yeah, that's an exclusive club for European. That includes homophobic people, all of them. Nobody else is allowed over there.
Mm-hmm. And as who I am more than happy not being there. I'm more than happy not knowing any people like that, and I'm perfectly happy with my multicultural friends. Oh man, just hearing them talk, and they all look normal. That's the thing that it's crazy to me. I watch all these videos of these people going on extremely harassing, racist, horrific rants, and also support for these crimes that these people are committing in the open. And they look normal. Like, you could run into them at Walmart. They could be your neighbor. They could be your teacher. They could be your kid's teacher. They could literally be just any random person. And they harbor so much divisive scary language. Like some of these people vouch for death and massacre and injury. And like I just recently saw an attack on, I think it was a subway in New York, or no, Oregon. It was in Portland, Oregon. Somebody went on a Zionist or whatever. Like he didn't like liberals, and so he attacked 3 men on a train and ended up killing 2 of them because one of them was, and I think he was originally harassing 2 girls who may have been either Indian or possibly like Middle Eastern, and he originally got on the train to go after them, and he stabbed the 3 men that defended him. But he was yelling all of these slurs and awful things. And he didn't say it, but I knew exactly who he voted for.
Imagine blowing up buildings, schools, shooting up just properties for a belief system that is probably not even something that you should have even been honoring in the first place. Taking your own life, risking your freedom, risking everybody else's life around you off of some false propaganda people are using to get you to do their dirty work. Stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I add on, I did a reaction video. There's an all-woman island too, by the way, just in case y'all didn't catch that one.
An all-woman what?
There's an all-woman island.
Oh.
Yeah, she bought
Yikes.
she bought some land, and it's women only. The only way a man is to step foot over there is if there's something that they can't do themselves. Shocker.
I'm not gonna lie, that's gonna be hilarious when like they need somebody to do plumbing or whatever. Like the guy's just gonna be surrounded by all these women like staring him down. Like, don't you think of anything? He's like, I'm literally here just to fix your toilet.
Right.
That, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds stressful as hell. Like I already have a hard time with people in general. Like I like to be by myself and be with my books and my knowledge. I can't imagine being surrounded by 100 catty, nosy, bitchy women.
I wouldn't even take the job. You fuck around and get a lawsuit, get arrested just off of the fact that you just there. Like,
you want me to go where? No, I'm good. You can have that job, Kathy.
for real. Let me ask you a question since we're here, because we talked about this before, but in hindsight, Jeffrey Epstein is somebody that I didn't really know as a person, as a businessman, but he was able to make a great living. So much so to the point to where if y'all watched one of the clips I had played a few minutes ago, one of the victims spoke about a long list of children underage that he would select to come to parties, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, wow, you wouldn't think that somebody like that would even bother to be entertained in that manner, let alone get tied into other men and women. The folks are trying to get these books open. We need to see what's happening. We need to know who's on this list. Trump name has come up way too much. At one point, Trump is like, all right, go ahead, release it. Now it's like, nah, he ain't trying to have no parts of it.
I can't find the actual article, but I did see somebody post a headline that his name is in there thousands of times. It's on many, many, many pages, hundreds of pages. Also, the fact, like, as you said, I even posted this on social media at some point. I'd pull it up, but I'm having an issue with my account right now. Anyway, he, like, in 2016, when he ran, I think, wait, was Jeffrey Epstein killed in 2019 or 2014? When was he killed?
I believe it was 2019.
Let me see.
I could be wrong.
I always get the timeline wrong. Because it happened, like, longer ago than I thought. Killed. Okay, 2019, yeah. Right, I forgot. It was before COVID, which makes it seem like it was, like, decades ago. A whole different world. When he ran in 2020, or what, I don't remember what happened, but anyway, he said it at some point that when he became president again, that he was going to, day one, I'm going to release the Epstein files. And then in an interview, probably 2 or 3 months before before the election, he was asked in an interview, like, are you going to release the files? And she was naming all of the different, like, JFK files and some other stuff. And for all of them, yes. And the Jeffrey Epstein, yes. But and he started to, like, backpedal, and then he was like, oh, but that's not really a priority. Like, he was giving excuses, and he had a markedly different answer for that one than any of the other questions that she asked. And he diverted the conversation by the end of the news reel, and Fox even cut it out of their videos. They just cut it out at yes, and then chopped it off, and there's no answer after that. But then when he finally got elected on day one, of course, everyone's like, hey, you're going to release the Epstein files? Yes, but we have to review them first. Okay, so are you reviewing them? And that's when Pam Bondi had the famous, oh yeah, they're on my desk. And then magically, when people are like, all right, what's happening? Oh, there's nothing in the files. So literally 4 years ago, you were talking about how much evidence you have. We have thousands of pages and all sorts of names, and we're going to be able to crack this wide open and drain the swamp and blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly, oh, there's nothing. The day before you have to release the documents, suddenly there's no evidence at all, and it's all inconsequential. And this 10,000 page whatever document is suddenly just not anything. And then they're like, oh, we don't actually have it at all. It was a hoax. And then they're like, wait. It does exist, but Obama and Hillary are responsible for it. It is the Democrats' fault. And then they're like, oh, you're right. We do have the documents, but we're going to block you from seeing them. And so then they issued a block on the release. And then when they tried to fight the release or fight the block or something or other, I think something else came up. And then they, again, were trying to blame the Democrats and, again, bulk. This is not something somebody does if they're innocent. If you are innocent, if you're free of guilt, if you have not done anything, you don't know what's happening, you know for a fact you are innocent, you're going to be like, release the files. I want to show you. You're going to see my name's not in there. I know it. You know it. We're all going to know it. I'm not in there. If you are guilty, you are going to fight tooth and nail to keep people from seeing those files. I would not be surprised if part of the reason why he ran was because of the files. Like in 2016, it would make sense because he got access to those files. And 2019, that's when he was switching over. The presidency was starting to switch over to the next election. And so he was like, oh yeah, I'll release it if you vote for me. because then it just delays. It gives him more time. It allows him to be like, yeah, see, I'm going to release him. I'm going to release him. And I don't know what happened with Biden. Why that? Personally, I think it's bigger than Trump. I think that there's actual politicians that are in there. But still, the Republicans are the ones that are fighting it. The Democrats are saying, release it. Even if somebody is in there that we know, we want you to release it. We want to know who's in there. And so the fact that they are putting this off so hard and they're fighting it tooth and nail, and so many people are lying about the timeline and what's in it, and then going back and forth and coming up with different lies, they're very clearly grasping at straws. They know full well that there are consequential things inside that document. And honestly, it's a matter of time. I just hope that we have a part of the government that is willing to actually taking down all of these people.
You know what's interesting to me when I think about documentation? I have a shredder right next to me. And if I don't want this anymore, I just toss it in the shredder.
I also burn my name off stuff that come out of my house just so people don't I don't know what people want to use information for. I don't want to give them anything, even if it's just my address.
Exactly.
That's how we know they were love letters, because you wanted to keep those with Epstein.
So so what would be the point? All right, what would be the point of holding on to all of this dirt?
Souvenirs. Criminals do this. This is a very common psychology type thing. Part of it has to do with our trauma response, and part of it has to do with what drives people to commit crimes. We all know that he has massive pride. His ego is bigger than this freaking planet. And if somebody commits a crime, especially with that level of ego, they are going to want to keep mementos to keep track of and memorialize the things that they did. And it gives them a sense of accomplishment, a sense of power, a sense of I am better than these people. Look at me. I got away with this. There's all sorts of, obviously I can't say his exact motivations, but you can kind of guess what he might be motivated by. Additionally, this guy does not seem very cleanly or organized on the outside. I've heard that his homes are disgusting and poorly cleaned, and he's kind of disgusting and smells bad. And frankly, he likely has ADHD given his prowess in the business industry, if you want to call it that. ADHDers tend to be the most successful groups of people and tend to be, just because of the way their brain works, they're able to handle a lot more, but they're also highly disorganized because of all the stuff they're doing. So I suspect that he has ADHD, and that would lead to disorganization, and would potentially explain why he has a bunch of stuff left over from that time period. Additionally, it could have also just been sometimes criminals get blasé, where they're especially one like him, he's so rich and powerful. It's easy to assume that he'd also be egotistical enough to be I could take on any legal challenge. I could pay for the best lawyer. I could pay my way out of these. Literally, he has paid his way out of how many different sexual allegations that have been definitively proven? How many people get the opportunity to do that? We have so many people that are in jail just because they couldn't even afford to get proper, not support, lawyer, oh my God. Anyway, representation. They don't have the opportunity to do that, but he does. So he has this who cares if they have evidence? I can do whatever I want. So I feel like those are all kind of factors as to why those exist. Also, I imagine that in general, he also just accumulates a shit ton of paper from all the stuff that he does. So could have easily gotten lost that way as well. Yeah, lots of reasons, but it's still, this is why I like being a minimalist, because, or pseudo minimalist, because it allows me to keep track of everything I have and not allow accumulation of like, not that I'm committing crimes, but useless documentation. But yeah. Oh, before I forget, the lawyer that represented Epstein in his first trial got murdered like 4 days ago. Mysteriously. You're on mute. It was so funny. I switched to a different tab to look up the article, and I was like, wow, he's really dumbfounded right now. Like, he's just in shock and silence. I was like, wait a minute, this has been too long, I think.
No, what it was bound to happen. I go a couple of days without messing with the mute button, and sometimes I was saying I was about to laugh, and I felt bad, but you kind of made me grin for a second because I thought you was about to laugh at the shit because how coincidental it is that this man just passed away. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I just looked it up. They since found that he actually, so they found him like in his home, dead at like suspiciously in a weird position, but he died of illness. He was battling an illness, and then he died because he couldn't survive that. He was 80, so no conspiracy unless maybe they infected him. They sent him bio warfare in the. I don't know. I'm making it up. Darn.
Look, I got a video here, and it's pretty lengthy. This one's about 15 minutes. I personally, this ain't like the one where my man was kind of spazzing out. This is a little bit more about them discussing a woman who was arrested and sentenced to 20 years. I can't pronounce her name. It's about her trying to get out, and it's about Trump and his position on her release or the possibility of her being released. So I wanted to play some of it, and then we can come back to this. So I'll bring it up on the screen real quick. Matter of fact, if you want to pause in between any of this, we can do that too. Okay.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have a major update here as it relates to Ghislaine Maxwell and the U.S. Supreme Court. Can you explain what just happened?
Yeah, so Ghislaine Maxwell just took her last shot to try to convince the U.S. Supreme Court to review her conviction. And she filed what's called a reply brief, a 15-page brief. Basically, you know, her attorney's making her best arguments as to why they think the Supreme Court should accept her case for review. I think it's unlikely they will do it, but, you know, with this Supreme Court, who the hell knows, Brian? So basically what happened is, obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell was investigated and indicted, mind you, by the Trump administration's Department of Justice during his first presidency. And yet we're endlessly now hearing Donald Trump say that the Epstein and Maxwell cases were a fabrication of the Democrats. And yet, Brian, our viewers should never forget that it was Donald Trump's Department of Justice, as led by Bill Barr, that criminally indicted both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She went to trial. She was convicted. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. She appealed to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. They shot her down. They affirmed her conviction. Now she's trying to convince the Supreme Court to take her case up and decide it. So she filed her original brief. The Solicitor General's office in the Department of Justice filed its opposition, urging the Supreme Court not to take her case up for review. And just today, Ghislaine Maxwell filed her 15-page response, basically trying to convince the Supreme Court that there's this important split among different federal circuit courts of appeal, different federal jurisdictions that militate in favor of the Supreme Court taking her case up to try to resolve this split. I looked at her 15-page pleading. It's not particularly persuasive, but again, with this Supreme Court, Brian, who the hell knows what they're going to do?
What do you presume the Trump administration's stance on this is going to be, or do they have to weigh in at all?
Well, they already weighed in with their original brief opposing Ghislaine Maxwell's request to have the Supreme Court take up the case. And now this is basically her reply to their opposition, saying, not so fast, we think we have the better of the argument. So right now, basically the battle has been met with all of the briefs, all of the filings that are permitted under the Supreme Court rules. And now we just have to wait to see whether the Supreme Court votes to take the case up or they just reject the case.
In terms of the prospect of a pardon, what do you think the Trump administration would want here if their goal is to give Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon? Do you think that if, for example, if the Supreme Court does agree to rehear this case and possibly throw out her conviction, then Trump would lose his leverage in terms of being able to dangle a pardon over Maxwell's head because she would no longer need somebody to help her get out?
Yeah, but I think the last thing Donald Trump wants right now is to extend the Epstein-Maxwell saga any longer than they have to. So, it seems to me the last thing Trump would want is for the Supreme Court to accept the case for review and then maybe have arguments on it next term. And this thing could be kicking around for a year as the subject of discussion, regarding a pending case before the Supreme Court. It seems to me Donald Trump, I feel like a pardon is in the offing, which would be a truly horrific turn of events because of all of the hundreds. Indeed, I've heard upwards of 1,000 victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal conspiracy. They are having to relive this nightmare now in the news every day. So if Donald Trump were to pardon literally the only convicted defendant in the entire Jeffrey Epstein horrific criminal conspiracy, it's hard to envision a less just, more outrageous pardon of horrific criminal conduct.
Glenn, if the Supreme Court does decide to rehear this case and we do engage in another cycle where they actually do relitigate this thing in court, I know we've spoken about the prospect of, let's say, Trump gets Ghislaine Maxwell to say whatever would be beneficial to Trump in exchange for some gift. Maybe it's a pardon, maybe it's a reduced sentence. She would go in front of Congress and say, oh, as far as I know, Trump wasn't involved at all. Is there a difference between lying to Congress, and Congress doesn't really enforce any of this? We've spoken about the fact that justices have lied before Congress. Nothing ever happens to them. Nominees lie before Congress. Nothing ever happens to them. Versus going to trial, having to swear an oath, opening yourself up to actual perjury charges that really stick in the same way that lying in front of congressional panels doesn't. Would that be a situation in which Trump would be worried about what would come out? Because she can say whatever she needs to say to Congress. Half of Congress is on Trump's side anyway. But when you're in a courtroom and you lie, the stakes are so much higher.
Yeah. So it seems to me that what Trump is probably most interested in, we don't know. But, I think we can use lots of data points to conclude that what Trump is always most interested in is what's best for Donald Trump? Not Ghislaine Maxwell, not the American people, but what's best for Donald Trump. And really the only way for him to try to control the narrative is with the pardon power. Because listen, he has sent his former criminal defense attorney to the prison where Ghislaine Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence for the horrific crimes she committed and was convicted of by a jury of her peers. And I think most thinking people are probably of the belief that, well, sure, Todd Blanche, Trump's former defense attorney, is trying to craft a story and, lock it in from Ghislaine Maxwell that will at least not hurt Trump and potentially help Trump. Because would it surprise anybody if Todd Blanche, announced to the world that not only did Ghislaine Maxwell say Donald Trump did nothing wrong, but she said a whole lot of Democrats did a whole lot of stuff wrong. Of course, Brian, if that is the narrative that Todd Blanche tries to sell to the American people, the first question, and perhaps the only question, is if that were true, why didn't you, the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, release that at the earliest opportunity to exonerate Trump and make Democrats look bad? Come on, how foolish and gullible do they think we are? But I think the only way Donald Trump can control things is pardoning her when he believes the time is right, rather than running the risk of her maybe having an incentive to try to go before Congress if whatever Donald Trump does for her hasn't satisfied her. Or even, more dramatic for Donald Trump would be, okay, finding a way to perhaps testify under oath in some criminal or civil proceeding and disclose everything she actually knows about, for example, who is on the Epstein client list. So, as horrific as it sounds, and it is horrific, I feel like the pardon is the way that Donald Trump can best try to contain the sort of ongoing damage.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it doesn't cost him anything. He can wield it. He freely. He can abuse it as much as he wants. He showed on day one of his presidency that he pardoned 1,500 insurrectionists. There's no skin off his back to wield a pardon. Again, it's not coming out of his own pocket. It doesn't cost him anything to do. And so why not just give a pardon in exchange for whatever benefits him personally? This is the one instance where he doesn't have to pay for anything. The guy's used to shelling out hundreds of thousands of dollars to get what he wants. If this is an instance where he just gets to throw out get out of jail free cards and it has no bearing on him, of course he's going to be able to use and abuse that privilege. I got to ask, in this instance, as it relates to the Supreme Court, how quickly are we going to have any update here?
Impossible to say, Brian. It could be days, weeks, months. We have no way of knowing. There is no deadline for the Supreme Court. Not only do they sort of operate in an ethics-free environment with no mandatory rules of ethics or code of conduct that applies to them that is actually enforceable, but, they do things on their own timetables. They do things at their leisure. But, if we believe that the 6 right-wing Supreme Court justices who are forever trying to do Donald Trump a solid, expand his power as the president of the United States, are interested in sort of trying to kill this story sooner rather than later, we may hear that they are rejecting Ghislaine Maxwell's request, that they accept her case for review very quickly. We may hear it within a matter of weeks, but there are no deadlines that apply here.
And in the event that the Supreme Court refuses to reopen this case, that would mean that Trump once again has all the cards to be able to play, which would, as we spoke about, very likely mean that he can wield a pardon if he needs to and not have to worry about any interference or any further litigation on this case. It's just he gets to control the narrative, basically.
Exactly right. And here's the other thing. As I was reading through the brand new filing from Ghislaine Maxwell, I mean, can I just give our viewers a 2-minute backstory here? Because, it's really horrific to know how we've come to this point. A U.S. attorney down in Florida in the mid-2000s, Alex Acosta, who went on to become Donald Trump's labor secretary, entered into this really horrific non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein for the crimes he was allegedly committing down there in Florida. And the non-prosecution agreement was highly unusual, not entirely unprecedented. And I can talk about why that is in a minute. But it said, okay, we, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Florida, will not prosecute Jeffrey Epstein for any of the crimes he may have committed. And he wants us to throw in 4 named co-conspirators, basically give them a kind of immunity, a promise not to prosecute those 4 named co-conspirators. And here is the kicker, Brian. Let me actually read the clause from that non-prosecution agreement, so I'm not accused of misstating it. It stated that if Epstein successfully fulfills all of the terms and conditions of this non-prosecution agreement, the United States, the federal prosecutors in Florida, also agree that it will not institute any criminal charges against any potential co-conspirators of Epstein, including but not limited to 4 of Epstein's named assistants. How is that, Brian, for some extraordinary fucking ugliness in the prosecutorial practice by
it's what, 3 minutes left. I figure I'll just stop it right there real quick just to give you a chance, because I know you was absorbing it. Let me check my mute, make sure I ain't on mute. Yeah. That's a lot. That is a lot. And I've said it once, I've said it again. Everybody is easily bought. People are extremely greedy, conniving, selfish, self-motivated people. Everything that I heard here, all it sounded like was whatever's on these, whatever he has in these files is connected to a lot of people. We can't afford to have anybody on that list exposed. If I have to use this to keep her mouth shut, I'm going to go ahead and try to do that. And that means that I have to be the one to get her out of jail. She can't get out through means of her own information and her own lawyers and things of that nature. I have to be the one to look like I'm rescuing her or showing her some type of mercy. That way, she'll feel entitled to keeping her mouth shut on me. That's what I got from it. I could be wrong.
Her timing it's hard for me to deduce to guess what her motive might be, because I think it would really depend on her, I don't know what type of personality she has. If she did this because she's sociopathic and she doesn't actually have emotions and doesn't care about people and literally did this just for personal gain, I 100% believe that she's doing this to get herself out of jail. I could see it as that, like her wanting to take advantage of this opportune moment. It's in the news, like maybe I can use that as footing to get out. But I could also see it as potentially her anger towards him in he's getting away with it and she isn't. But I see that as less likely given the previous relationships with them and also his willingness to pay off anybody. I also wonder if he asked her to make the request And if he was the one that initiated this in the first place, and it wasn't her offering this information, if it was him telling her to say that. So I also wonder who is the one, because this timing is very, very apparent. It makes it very apparent that it's directly linked to them postponing the release. There's no question. And to be honest, this is the nail in the coffin, because it immediately confirmed that the documents do exist, because the person that literally did the trafficking confirmed that it existed, which already proves all of the things that he was saying were bold-faced lies. And second, if he does pardon her, that shows that they made mistakes in the very beginning. Let's say she was actually innocent, which we all know she wasn't. But if they pardon her, that's going to show that either they made an error back then or they're making an error now. And that still says something about them. So no matter what decision they make at this point, they are already screwed. Like, his bed is made. And I think the biggest loss that I think they're so egotistical, I don't even think they've realized it yet, or maybe they are, which is why we're seeing them panicking. But his approval ratings are dropping like a rock. His success as a president is in the shadows, and it's very, very, very clear he is broadly disliked. And they know that the piranhas are closing in. Or I guess I should say they're the piranhas, and the whatever's coming to take out the piranhas is coming. And I really just think that they're desperate. They're just trying to do whatever they can to postpone and not have to deal with this at all. And I mean, given his age, I feel like he's just trying to outlast it.
That's a good point. Going back to something you had said earlier, I don't know why I even bothered asking that question. I should have known. You keep these files and you keep these names and you keep this list for leverage. It's set up that way so that you keep a level of governing amongst the people within your organization, so that if somebody is even thinking about getting out of line, you got this to hold over them. And it benefits you to keep them next to you more than it does for them to walk away. So I can
hold that he used documents with his own name in them as leverage. It's like trying to, yeah, I know you committed the murder because I was there with you. Like that energy.
Do you think he just didn't know his name was going to be in there? He couldn't be that dumb.
I wonder if it's kind of that like childlike, you know, when like children get angry, especially teenagers, like they'll yell and accidentally expose themselves because they're so like emotionally unhinged that they just like blurt out whatever. I wonder if it was something like that, where he just like, it was a faux pas. He didn't mean to say it, but he was so like in himself that I'll just blah, blah, blah.
If it could be that.
Because he is an idiot.
Yeah, pretty much. Look, at the end of the day, whether or not the Supreme Court does everything in their power to stop this from happening or not, you're not going to be able to escape it forever. You can try to go to your grave with this if that's what this is. You can't run from it afterwards. there is no court that's going to rule in your favor then. And then here's another question. Let's say he successfully finds a way to keep from having any of this come out. And he dies as a president. He gets away with everything that he's done here. What happens now? Do we just forget about the Epstein documents then? Are they going to let it go? Or is just going to automatically come out once he's gone? Or are they just going to forget about it?
Gone is in dead or gone out of office? If that
I'm
happens.
talking about Donald Trump goes to his grave without being held accountable for this.
Oh, once he's dead, I'm sure it's going to come out because there's going to be somebody somewhere that's going to do a lawsuit to demand that they release it. And once he's dead, there's really nothing that he can do to fight it. Like, it's not like he can come back and pay them off.
But you see, I asked that question because I know he's not the only one on it. So
I wonder if his kids are in there. His like sons.
Yeah, it's possible.
I also wonder if part of the reason why he doesn't want it revealed is like literally all of the clients are his connections. Like that's what I think it is. I truly believe that he's in it and he was doing this to these women. I would not be surprised if his name wasn't actually in there, because he was part of the operation, so he wouldn't be on the list of clients because he was running the operation. So even though he's not on the list, he still very well could have been doing things. I mean, it was almost guaranteed that he was doing something with those girls. I think there's if you look at his history, if you look at the images of the women that he's targeted, the women that have accused him of things, the things that we know about him, there's no doubt in anybody's mind that he is a predator. And I think that all of those clients on that list, regardless of whether he's in that document or not, whether or not he's listed as a client or not, they're going to point back to him anyways, because they're going to all be people that he is directly connected to through business, through politics, through whatever. And it's going to be very, very apparent in that list of names that, yeah, he was definitely a perpetrator. He was definitely involved. No matter what he says, he can't, like, he keeps saying, oh, I didn't know Epstein that much. He wasn't actually my friend. We stopped hanging out. We didn't really go out that much. I've never actually been on his island. I've never been on his yacht. I've never been in his plane, even though we have pictures of all of it. But it's going to be really hard to be like, yeah, I don't actually know those 150 people that I work with and I've had at my house, and I have literal text evidence that I talk to them and emails and phone calls, and like, it's going to be undeniable for him to defend hundreds of names that he knows involved in this case that he supposedly has no knowledge of.
I'm gonna play the last 3 minutes of this and then bring it back to the regular screen, and we can finish this out. To anybody who is watching out, I just want to say I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Yeah, let me get back to this real quick. We're almost through.
A U.S. attorney. Now, interestingly, those 4 named assistants of Jeffrey Epstein, none of them included Ghislaine Maxwell. But because there is this extra clause, these 4 people, but not limited to these 4 people, there are so many reasons, first of all, to despise this non-prosecution agreement. Now, let me complete the story. In connection with this non-prosecution agreement, Jeffrey Epstein agreed to plead guilty to 2 charges in violation of federal law: solicitation of prosecution and solicitation of prosecution of a minor, for which he was sentenced to 18 months. He only served 13 months. You want to hear the kicker? He was allowed 12 hours a day of work release while he was serving that sentence. So basically, he just had to go sleep in a jail cell. Don't know if they even bother locking the door or not. But it's so horrific and it's so abusive of the victims in the case. But Brian, let me tell you about why this is highly unusual, but not completely unprecedented. You know, we do have large criminal conspiracy cases. We had one that was pretty notorious in DC decades ago, where the kingpin of a particular criminal organization had a mom who also had some criminal exposure. And part of resolving his case with a plea and cooperation agreement involving a promise by the U.S. attorney in D.C. not to prosecute his mother. So it's not like this thing can't be done. But, you know, when you have this number of victims, direct victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his many co-conspirators, it is dead wrong to resolve a case in the way Alex Acosta resolved it. But now let me bring it all back to the Ghislaine Maxwell filing before the Supreme Court. You know, basically, she is saying, okay, I may not have been one of the named assistants who, you know, they tried to give immunity to, but she also said, but I should just, every possible co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein in any federal jurisdiction, Florida, New York, or anywhere else, should be bound by this agreement, and nobody should ever be prosecuted anywhere federally. And, you know, that dog didn't hunt in court when she lost her trial. It didn't hunt in front of the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals when she tried to raise it again. And I don't think that dog will hunt based on the facts, the law, and the Constitution before the Supreme Court.
All right, well, all eyes, per usual, will be on the Supreme Court now to see what they opt to do. For those who are watching, if you'd like to follow along as soon as we have any update, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. It is completely free to subscribe. It's the best way to support our work and the best way to support independent media more broadly. So if you're not yet subscribed to our channels, please give it a quick look and make sure to subscribe. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The League.
All right. That was the sum of it right there. You have any final thoughts before we go? I know I do have a few words.
I wanted to briefly touch on the video as well. The whole situation is like, that's just another addition to this whole case that makes me believe that it's a widespread conspiracy cover-up, because it's been shown by video experts that 3 minutes, I think it was like 2 minutes and 58 seconds of that video was removed, and it showed him, as I think it was the video you showed, it showed him like not even going into his cell. And then also he supposedly committed suicide, but there were 2 guards outside his cell. They're supposed to be the entire time. So suicide is not silent. No matter what people think, a human body does not die quietly. And you're going to make noises that are going to indicate something is happening to you, especially because he supposedly hung himself. And when the body hangs itself, you don't just like it's not like the movies. Like, your body is thrashing and you're going to panic, because like a lot of people have to fail at hanging themselves because they end up falling down because they aren't able to do that successfully. How is somebody in a prison with limited access to anything supposed to hang himself effectively without anyone noticing? Especially because it takes at least 15 minutes, or at least 8 minutes, I think, to die from lack of oxygen to the brain, to start getting brain damage. And then I think it's like 15 minutes without oxygen is like truly fatal. So I just find it really, really hard to believe that he could have killed himself. And then the fact that that exact segment of the video was cut out is proof to me. Like, if I was a judge, I would be like, I mean, I've seen enough. That to me is, and then also that BS that Bondi said about like, oh yeah, they just have that 2-minute thing, 2-minute video when they're switching over the tapes and whatever. I don't believe that either. One, I believe that we're way more tech advanced than that, than to have actual rolling tapes that you have to switch over. I don't believe that. And then also, that is very suspicious that they would just happen to move him at the exact time that they're switching over the cameras. Like, okay, he just happened to die in the 2 minutes that those cameras are turned off. Sure. Okay, let's believe that. That is an astronomical. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So, honestly, I have no doubt in what is, like, I strongly believe that he's involved, that this is a cover-up, that there's more people involved than we're being led to believe, that this is a whole orchestrated thing. But my fear is that we don't have enough good people, or like, we do have enough good people, but enough people high up to actually take on this case genuinely in a way that it's supposed to be handled, actual justice. So that's really my biggest question with this, is how it's actually going to turn out. Are we going to have to wait 50 years to find out about what happened? Are we never going to find out? Or is somebody actually going to do the right thing? So I think that's really the big question now, is not if, but when. When this is going to be released, when we're going to know the true information. What was his name? The Attorney General, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said that we shouldn't trust her testimony because this is a direct quote. I mean, this is a person who's been sentenced many, many years in prison for terrible, unspeakable, and conspiratorial acts, and acts against innocent young people. I don't think that Maxwell can be trusted to provide accurate testimony. And so I think that's another really true part of the question, really true part of the situation is she, I hate to use this word, but is she evil? Like, is she an evil person? Because if she's an evil person, she's 100% doing this for her gain, and she's lying. If she's doing this because she actually feels guilty, which I don't believe at all, then I think we have hope that maybe the truth will come out and that she'll actually come out and tell us what happened. But I believe that's a very, very slim chance. I think that she's going to just be paid off.
I will go to sleep pretty well, knowing that one way or another justice will be served. Because I serve a God who is just. The way that he deals with human beings is not the same way that human beings deal with human beings. And so, as corrupt and shady as we are to each other, because let's face it, we do this to each other, you're not going to be able to avoid that regardless of how much you decide to spin, or cover up any of this. The gentleman in the video that I had watched, I didn't bring it over here because I didn't want YouTube to be on my case about copyright issues and all that shit. His story was essentially Trump and Epstein had a fallout, and it was over properties and things of that nature.
They did have a fallout. Ironically, they give very different statements about their fallout. Trump said he stopped hanging out with Epstein because Trump has said he didn't hang out with Epstein that much. We weren't actually that close of friends. Epstein said he stopped hanging out with Trump because Trump was too much of a crook. I found that super funny because I'm like, wow, pot calling the kettle black. Like you have to be a really shitty person to be hated by an active pedophile.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, on on the stream I did earlier, I said there's two type of people in this world. Epstein and Trump are on this side. The people who are practical and trying to live a righteous life are on this side. Everybody that's on Epstein's side of the street, there's no rules over there. There's no laws. There's nothing stopping them from doing whatever the hell they want. Nothing's off limits. So imagine the worst of the worst multiplied. That's that side. I didn't start this. It's just what it is, and it's been like this since the beginning of time. So I pray for justice. I pray for resolve. Will it happen in my lifetime? I don't know. I mean, they opened the JFK book.
I found an article that was published a few hours ago. It was about when he was in Scotland. One, he gave a statement about his falling out with Jeffrey Epstein. He said, for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was very inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place person non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did. If you want to know the truth. I hate the way he talks. He also, they asked him about the pardon, and he said, well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news, that aspect of it. But right now, it would be inappropriate to talk about it. I can't tell if this dude is bad at lying or out of his mind, or both.
It sounds good to people who don't understand how to read in between the lines. You know what I'm saying?
Nuance.
We talk about context all the time. And what sound good to somebody, it might sound evil as hell to somebody else if you don't understand the terminology. Satire, all that, like me being like one of them sarcastic type of people, I be looking for it. Yeah, I be waiting. The comment section is full of it. It's like,
oh yeah,
I was trained in the art of jargon. So
I
I don't
also
know.
love watching interrogation videos because it's a really good way to understand how to detect, like by seeing interrogations with people that are innocent, with people who aren't innocent, it gives you a really solid understanding of how to detect when people are bullshitting you.
Yeah. There was an interesting video that I did. YouTube got me on it. I'll probably come back to that to a later date. It was a pretty good one, man. I should have just made it members only. Me and Jason actually covered that one. But yeah, Epstein was set up. He wasn't innocent, but I believe he was executed in that prison. The footage
Literally the day before, like the other thing that the irony with that one too is people say that, like, if he committed suicide and he was supposedly innocent, why would an innocent man commit suicide right before they're going to get exonerated? Especially because I'm pretty sure he was going to plead no contest or guilty or something. Like, he was basically going to jail but people were trying to say that he was going to get acquitted, like he was innocent. And I'm like, why would somebody kill themselves if they were innocent?
Yeah, it don't make never make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right though. Y'all swear them down. We stupid, and y'all for the longest time have been in a position to where you can control the narratives how y'all see fit. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's not going to be for very long. I tell you that much.
We're already in it. We are watching. We're going to be in the history books. This time period is going to be a studied section for generations. We are the next Germany. Sadly.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But in the meantime, we at least get to enjoy cool earthquakes and tsunamis.
I just seen something about that.
It was cool. It was kind of crazy because I watch a couple different people that post like earthquake predictions, volcanic predictions, stuff like that. And all three of them said at the beginning of this week, I think that we're going to see a large earthquake in Russia. And they were giving 8 to 9. And lo and behold, it was an 8, almost a 9. I was like, all right. It looks like we're getting better with this earthquake prediction type stuff. Hopefully people accept it more widely. But it was pretty cool. It was the 6th biggest earthquake we've had in human recorded history.
I seen that. I'm like, what?
That was classified as a megaquake.
I feel bad for them. I'm glad that wasn't anywhere near here, because what we had was nowhere near that. But it felt like the end of the world. So I can only imagine that's being closer.
Right.
This neighborhood would have been destroyed. I can almost be certain of that, because these houses are pretty old.
Yeah. Yeah, Hawaii got, I think Hawaii, Hilo Bay, and I think Alaska got some, and then Russia obviously got hit the worst. But I think the highest was about 5 to 8 feet of, because it oscillates, so it was between that amount of increase. It's cool though. There are they've been putting out the tide charts, and you can actually see the tsunami waves come in overlaying on top of the ocean waves. And there's some pretty cool a graph that they have showing the earthquake waves traveling through the globe, like across the US and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I think, matter of fact, I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to talk to my folks about that, because she was watching something on her phone, and it looked like a radar or something, a weather radar. I don't know if she was looking at that or what it was, but it was. I thought her phone was broke, because the screen looked like it was just, when you crack your screen and it started messing up the quality of the video and all that. I thought something was wrong with her phone, but anyway, I went completely off. Good show. I appreciate you again, for being here. Do you want to plug anything? How do people can reach out?
I will add one more thing. It also triggered a volcanic eruption. There's now a volcano in that same location. The tallest one in the northern hemisphere is now erupting.
Oh yeah, we're in the end days for real.
For real. I do wonder now. I'm like, I think California's next, because we've had a major earthquake in Alaska, a major one in Russia, a major one in the lower arc area towards like Japan and China, and then we've had some in Mexico And the only place that has not been hit yet is us. Washington's been hit. So I feel like we're due for one, especially because that one, the one that happened, pulls the plate this way. And so that shift is going to pull the plate this way. So I really think that we're gonna see something soon. But
Well, be safe out there. I know you keeping your eyes open, and you're probably one of the most prepared. So
if I even hear trucks in the distance, I'm always like, all right, where's the table? But
right.
other than that, yeah, I don't really have any plugs. I hope we have poetry this week.
I'm trying my best. I'm gonna get on here in a minute and see what's up.
We can still do it on Friday anyways. I always have stuff.
Yeah, I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay.
Before I go on, I'll let you know.
All right.
But you enjoy the rest of your night.
You
To the
want?
people, y'all have a blessed one. Y'all drive safe. Be careful on the road and all that good stuff. If you are watching from YouTube, do me a solid.
What's the goddamn button?
Appreciate you. We gone for the evening. Y'all be easy.
All right.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there.